today with a little bit of background on the wood I'm using. A gardener, landscaper friend of mine was taking down an elm tree the other day, and I went and took some wood. The bigger pieces of wood ended up in plastic bags here so that they don't dry out and crack up, but the smaller pieces, like this crotch, I just got sitting around. So the biggest of the crotches I started processing yesterday, chopped into 5 pieces. We got the small cup, goblet, whatever that is, out of it, and this vase. This piece of crotch is gonna end up as a bowl. You can see that's already marked out, but that's gonna be complicated. So I've been trying to work out what to do with these two. Because the wood is very green, I don't think I can make a lidded box. Lidded boxes, green wood is very likely to warp as it dries. So if I do a lidded box, the lid will either get stuck or won't go back on. So I was racking my brain of what to do with this, and I did finally come up with an idea. A little while back, Simona gave me these 2 pieces of glass. Just glass cylinders, don't know where they came from, what they were. But I think I have an idea to make a kind of neat candlestick with one of these pieces of wood. And if it works, maybe I'll make another one. If it doesn't work, maybe I'll try again. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I'm gonna drill a flat spot on this end so I can mount this wood on the worm screw. Then I'll be able to get it in the lathe like that. So then I'll be able to flatten out this end and get a tenon on it so I can hold it in the chuck, and then I can do my hollowing. Okay, so I couldn't get that end flattened out, so I ended up mounting it this way around on the worm screw. So now I'll just turn a tenon on this end, because I've got to get rid of this ugly bit anyway. So I'll just take the whole thing back to here, turn a tenon, so I can put it in the jaws. That way also I won't have a hole up the middle of the back. Once I get it held how I like on this side, then I'll come up and start working this side. The idea is this piece is gonna keep the bark on. You'll see how that evolves as I go. So depending on the time of year, bark sticks to the wood more or less well, and I think it's this time of year, if you harvest the wood during the growing season, that the bark sticks less well. So the bark may all come off, which will be fine too. But if I can get it to stay on, then at the end I'm going to finish this thing with epoxy, which will stabilize the whole thing. Anyway, let's see what happens next. Okay, so I made this tenon way deeper than I normally would, because I want to make sure that I've gone beyond the hole that I screwed in the middle to mount the thing originally. But really, when I've got it in these jaws, I want the jaws butting up against this shoulder, not this hitting the back of the jaws. But that's just a compromise I'm going to have to live with for now. Okay, so now I have the piece held in the jaws, which are nice and big and strong, so the piece is going to be held completely solidly when I attempt the next bit. Now I'm going to take the tailstock out the way and try hollowing out this end. So I can start the hollowing with my drill bit in a chuck in my tailstock. But ultimately I'm going to want this hole to be larger than my largest drill bit, so I'll have to go to a chisel once I'm done drilling to the depth I want. So we're making progress. I do just want to point out that I want to preserve this angled piece, which makes, if I straightened the end here, this whole drilling process would be a lot easier. But I want to use that in the final design. So I have to keep using it, and so as it's spinning, I've got this sharp end spinning all the time, which I'm going to have to spend this whole project avoiding not breaking a finger off or something. Okay, so now setting my depth gauge and basically eyeballing it. Yeah, we can see that we're below that rim. So we're good. So now I'm ready to start trying to hollow out, widen this hole to the depth so I can fit my glass in. Again, without catching that wing as it comes round. Okay, so the thing has come off the lathe like 6 times now. Fortunately, when I'm working on this, I'm standing at the end of the lathe, so when it comes off in the direction of the spin, so it doesn't hit me, but it's kind of scary. So what's happening is, because I'm turning so much air, let's see if I can actually do this. Yeah, every time this comes round, it's hitting, there's lots of air, and then it goes, lots of air, and then it hits this edge. And if I have, if I've shifted out just a hair too much, it just catches and catapults the thing off the lathe. It's really not fun. So anyway, I'm going to square the thing off, do my hollowing, and then add an angle again. That'll be a lot safer and a lot easier. Okay, so now that I've squared this off, this will be much easier, because now this is a straight hollowing job like usual, and I won't be hanging the tool off the edge of the tool rest. I'm gonna go fairly deep, at least deep enough that I can still add an angle at the end and get that dramatic effect, what I hope will be a dramatic effect. Okay, so I finally have it drilled out to a decent depth. That wasn't fun at all. No, it's not. I don't know. We'll see when I get further whether I'll actually end up angling this thing or not. But now I'm just going to open it up so that the glass fits, which is, basic bowl turning, so that shouldn't be too challenging. Okay, so I got it hollowed out to a size that the glass fits in it nicely. And probably if I was sensible, I would leave it like that, but when have I ever been sensible? So anyway, the next thing I'm going to do, so you can see the wood is so wet that all this condensation forms just with the glass sitting there for a minute. As I've been saying, the wood is likely to warp, but what I'm going to do is, by leaving the glass in there as it dries, as it warps, likely what will happen is it will just hold the glass tight. That's my hope anyway. Anyway, next thing I'm going to do is part the wood from the lathe, give it a nice bottom, and then you'll see what I'm going to do next. So I got it off the lathe, and I got a little foot on the bottom in doing it. I need to clean up the middle, obviously, but it's got a nice rim around the outside. I got it off the lathe just in time. As you can see, the bark is starting to peel away here, but like I said, with some epoxy that will get set in place. And if I get my glass, that's not bad as it is. as a candle holder, but there is something else I want to try with it that I hope will make it more interesting. Okay, so I think that was worthwhile. I think it looks pretty cool. It took a while. So now I'm going to mix up some epoxy and give it a coat of epoxy. I'm not quite sure what that's going to do to the bark. Hopefully it'll make it look good. So it's going to take a while for the epoxy to dry, but I think it looks pretty good. It gives it a wet look, and tomorrow we'll see the whole thing with the glass in it.